Okay, let's actually start to talk about the Kiwifarms thing. I haven't done a video on this yet because I wanted more information to come down and new stuff is happening all the time. Plus, my episodes don't go out within a couple days of being recorded anyway, so I didn't want to make a video and then a whole bunch of new stuff would happen and then suddenly that video is irrelevant by the time it comes out. So, let's go ahead and recap everything that has happened so far in as succinct a way as I possibly can. But before that, the first one we have here is from Backflip Eternal Rivals. It said work in progress from the Journey to Heck video. Aw. He's staring at a little Blizzy. Blizzy's a good bean. The next one we have here is from Rosie Goggles. Said a dramatic recreation of when Suris' shield stopped working a few streams back. Note, while this is inspired by true events, some created liberties may have been taken. Sir, a War Words missile is about to hit the city. Activate the shield! Sir? It's broken. Little do people know I deactivated the shield myself. You know, for science. The last one we have here is from Knitted Cryptic. So it might be 1 in the morning, but I don't work tomorrow, or well, today, so I decided to draw a thing. Hope everyone sleeps well. Aw, that's adorable. It looks like the beads are just, like, sitting next there. They're so giant compared to the slime. It's perfect. Thank you very much, Knitted Cryptic. As always, thank you all for your fan art submissions. If you want your fan art to be shown in a future episode, the best way to do so is to drop it into the fan art section of the Discord. With that said, if you haven't already subscribed or even checked out Patreon, please consider doing so, and maybe even hit that bell notification icon if you want to know when episodes come out as fast as possible. With that said, let's go ahead and get the very quick and dirty rundown of this. So, what is or was Kiwifarms? Kiwifarms was a website that originally was designed to, let's just go ahead and put it out there, track Chris Chan. There was a lot more that it did, but that was one of the biggest things that you saw on Kiwifarms, was tracking the Chris Chan drama, which, of course, that culminated quite awkwardly and terribly eventually. But it was originally created by Joshua Moon, who was a administrator over on 8chan beforehand. But the original founder of 8chan, Fred Brennan, tried to actually get 8chan removed from the internet because he realized that the 8chan website itself caused a lot of harm. Now, for those who aren't familiar with Chan boards, that may not seem like a whole lot, but think of 8chan like edgier 4chan, and awkwardly, that might seem like that's kind of awkward to think about considering the stuff you can find on 4chan. 8chan has since been renamed to 8kun and is its own thing now, but just remember, even the founder tried to get rid of it. However, what Joshua Moon does is considered to be a little bit worse, because what Joshua Moon and his website gets to do is they have a culture of targeting what they like to call lolcows. Now, a lolcow, most people know what that is, right? Like, we even have some lolcows here on the channel as well. Basically, people who we know that we can go to when we want to have a laugh, and we want to respond to the things that they are doing. People that we either view as decently bad or deserving of that ridicule. Think your, no bullshit used to be a lolcow for this channel before he stopped making as much content as he used to. Call for an uprising would also count in this category as well. This is where a lot of the culture for Kiwifarms came from, utilizing the idea of Chris Chan as a lol child that could be gone after. But Chris Chan wasn't the only target. And, of course, again, should probably be noted, there won't be any defense of Chris Chan on this channel. I find them to be a very reprehensible human being, so we're not going to be going into any of that right now. But what Kiwifarms did have, though, was a death counter. Because they liked to track when people killed themselves because of their website and their actions. Let's go ahead and get into it. Before the abuse from strangers began, Amanda Waite made arrangements at her son's school for counselors to be around when she broke the news. This time, she hurt herself too much and she died, Amanda told her and her partner's 5-year-old son, John, on Wednesday afternoon. Amanda's partner of 9 years, Lizzie Waite, had committed suicide hours before in a Pierre, South Dakota home. Amanda found out when she saw Lizzie's Facebook note, scheduled to post hours after anyone could help. I called the police to do a safety check, said Amanda. Due to South Dakota's Marcy's laws, the Pierre Police Department declined to comment. When they opened the door, she was already gone. She knew exactly what she was doing when she said it for the time she did, so someone could save her cat. Amanda called her mom, then Lizzie's mom. She went to the funeral home. The police gave her Lizzie's cat. Then she went home to take a screenshot of Lizzie's suicide note so she could keep her words. I'm sorry to all the people I'll hurt by killing myself. I truly am. I've been hurting so bad and I can't form the words to communicate it to you, Lizzie starts. I'm so lonely. Amanda started writing a Facebook comment back to her. She called it a last letter. I was writing my last letter to her because it felt like I needed to talk to her again. Then I noticed the comments rolling in. People saying, good riddance. Wrote a user with the fake name, Oi McVeigh. Can anybody, does everybody already automatically know what that is? I sincerely hope most people do. If you don't, though, that right there, yep, we have our lovely anti-Semitic dog whistle. Yep, anti-Semitism. So, one of the anti-Semitic dog whistles that you'll see sometimes online is people who will use common phrases that are stereotypical of Jewish people and Jewish culture, and then use those terms themselves in a way to signal a disparaging aim to it. So, your name is Oi McVeigh. Okay, cool. Oy vey being another stereotypical Jewish term. If your name is Oi McVeigh, this is one of those things that somebody can look at and say, well, maybe they are Jewish, or maybe it's just a joke. Who knows? Nobody knowing if it's a joke or not is kind of part of what makes it a dog whistle. That's kind of the point. You can't tell if the person's an anti-Semite or just engaging in edgy humor. And that is, unfortunately, more feature than bug. The user's profile picture was a shot of Donald Trump pointing and laughing. At first, I thought maybe it was just a friend of a friend, said Amanda. I replied back telling them they're assholes, because they're assholes, but the abuse didn't stop. They then said, I'm glad he is gone, wrote a user named Jaroslav Tipek, who had already changed his profile picture to a Photoshop of Lizzie's face. Donnie J. Trump, trans lives don't matter. Go kick rock stickhead, trolls are starved, and power. Amanda didn't have direct access to Lizzie's computer or passwords. She said she and Lizzie still loved each other, but we had been living separately. And so the comments kept rolling in. A Photoshop of the MGM logo popped up with Donald Trump's face replacing the lion. All of the words were replaced with the words ha ha over and over again. Then this from user Donnie J. Trump, hashtag trans lives don't matter. It was spiraling out of control really fast, said Amanda. I just had to look at Gigi running up. I'm sorry. We had to do something. At first, Amanda said she sent in a request for Lizzie's account to be memorialized on Facebook, a feature that limits who can comment on any post. It's the day before Thanksgiving. It's evening. I understand, she said. They need proof she was dead. But all I had was a picture, and I had taken of her at her funeral home. So Amanda started trying to guess Lizzie's passwords, which she'd changed since they lived in different houses. None of them were working. By now, people were mocking Amanda and Lizzie's son. We called our son Tato because in the ultrasound, he looked like a little roasted potato. They were making fun of our child's nickname. It's absolutely horrible. That was one of the tip-offs that this attack was seemingly being coordinated from a specific anti-transgender hate site that had been taunting Lizzie over the past several years. The message board had a thread mocking, incorrectly, that Lizzie had a son named Potato. So America just became a little greater. When Liz first transitioned, she got her name posted to the site. It's this big collection of horrible, awful troll people, said Amanda. They like to pick on people for fun. The Daily Beast can confirm the existence of the threads about Lizzie's on the site's message board, but has chosen not to give publicly to the website by naming it. Well, we're going to do that here because we already know the website is Kiwifarms. It's Kiwifarms. By now, Amanda was calling Lizzie's landlord to see if she could get into her partner's apartment, but he wasn't picking up. Meanwhile, the trolls were seizing on the last few paragraphs of Lizzie's note. A half-dozen paragraphs after, Lizzie wrote, "The pills are taking effect and I can't think straight. I love you all." Lizzie wrote this about Donald Trump. Dump Trump, kill him, Mike Pence too, goodnight white pride, steal the hats and destroy him. Beat fascists with a baseball bat. Of these lines, Amanda said, "I know people thought there was a lot of hate and awful things spewed at the end of her note. I don't think people understand that she was worried about her basic civil liberties. She had been harassed by a boss for using what some people believe to be the wrong bathroom. She was hurting badly enough to kill herself. She said the pills were kicking in." Amanda remembers thinking of the trolls, why are you spewing hate at someone for how they phrased their suicide note? But by now, Amanda was desperate. She said, "I'm freaking out. Her family is freaking out. Her friends are freaking out. The one group of people that Liz would have been least comfortable with has absolutely taken over and is terrorizing everyone who loves her." It was around this point that Lizzie's brother, David McClure, heard the news. He got a call from his mom at his work on Arizona, and then left to call another one of his sisters for confirmation. That's where he heard about the suicide note on Facebook. He said, "I pulled over and read it and cried by the side of the road. That day was horrible, and those fucking Nazis made it worse." McClure said he used to teach Lizzie about good music when they were kids. "No hair bands," he said. "She was a cool kid." On Wednesday, as he coped with his sister's loss in his parked car, strangers were disgracing her name and he was powerless to stop them. "She was a loving person that people cared about," said McClure. "What you, the trolls, did to me and my family was one of the worst things I have ever seen. I hate the world a little more now." Hours later, Amanda had a breakthrough. She and Lizzie shared an old laptop where Lizzie was still logged into an email address on a backup web browser. From there, Amanda sent a request for a new password from her Facebook account, and it worked. She shared the password through Lizzie's sister, who helped take care of all those nasty comments. You do not want that to be her last memory," said Amanda. Instead, Amanda says, she wants people to remember Lizzie as a Renaissance woman. She was good at everything she picked up. If she decided she wanted to learn Japanese, she would learn Japanese. If she wanted to be a calligrapher, even though she had the world's crappiest handwriting, give her a month. She was a calligrapher. She had a big heart, and she wanted to take care of everyone, and I feel like she knew too much, if that makes sense. Amanda said Lizzie's mental health had been in steady decline for years, but had been better over the last few months. She said the outcome of the election had been a noticeable negative impact. She was so worried about if she was going to have basic civil rights. She was working so hard. She had her medication stable. She had a great therapeutic team. The election felt like a turning point. She got really hopeless after that. It's really, really conservative here. She was afraid that unless national politics got better, local politics were going to get a lot worse. And we're going to pause there for a moment to point out that this is functionally a thing that happens anywhere. When you have a more conservative president, the social zeitgeist tends to lean more conservative. When you have a more liberal president, the social zeitgeist tends to lean more liberal. Now, this also happens when you have an extremist in office. An extremist will necessarily lead to more extremes popping up on both ends of the political spectrum. Who is in office does matter. It might not matter as much for public policy in some cases, because the president is still limited in a lot of the actions they can take. But the rule of thumb is this. The president sets the standard for the rest of America. He sets the standard for what they make fun of, and he sets the standard for what they strive to be. Because America, as awkward as it is to say it, puts a lot of respect into the presidential office. There are, let's just go ahead and say it, there are boomers on many platforms who, the minute you say anything disparaging about the president, will immediately get on your case. And it doesn't matter who the president is, they will do that, especially if they're ex-military. Panda Cat NB says it's because certain Americans still want a monarchy. There is some of that. There is some of that. There is definitely some of that. But we'll have to continue. There's one comment here. It said Styx, I think it was mentioned in some threads, and there was some gossip about him being a creep to some transgender teenager, and some of his friends just wishing him happy birthday for some reason. Okay. Not 100% certain about the relevance for a lot of that. But point is, I'm going to live my commentary. This kind of cruelty is mind-numbing. Yeah, it is. We're going to continue the article, and then we're going to lead into the next bits. But the day before her death, Lizzie and Amanda jointly declared bankruptcy. After they finished the paperwork with their lawyer, Amanda said she and Lizzie talked forever about good times, bad times, and all of it. She said, "I'll replay that day forever. What did I miss?" Now, Amanda says she wants John to know the Lizzie she knew. She said her partner never liked pictures of themselves prior to transition. Afterward, Lizzie became really into selfies. Amanda calls that the good stuff. "I don't want him seeing this awful last day of her life bit. If our son Googles her name in 15 years, I want people to see the good stuff." In the meantime, David has words of advice for those in the LGBT community who might face similar hate speech on the web. Reach out for help. Even reach out to him. Don't let the assholes win. So that entire article was written by one Ben Collins, and he's going to be who we're going to be referring to for a lot of the next bit of the discourse here. So he has a thread where he continues on saying that why is Kiwifarms more dangerous than any other site? Over and above the fact that, they harass people into this type of shit. Kiwifarms itself has a very far-right user base that abuses all the private data that companies have accrued over the last decade, and then weaponizes it against whoever their perceived enemies are. Now, I've got a couple threads that are up on Kiwifarms. And I've got friends who, as soon as they found those threads, immediately sent them to me because of the proclivity that website has for grabbing people and then doxing them and turning them into their lol cows and straw men that they can beat on for however long they need. Let's go ahead and make one thing 100% clear. Users who are on Kiwifarms do not have lives. They don't. Their lives are the farms. Their lives are harassing people. As far as individual characteristics for people who use Kiwifarms, I fail to find any for any of them. Yes, they are all human beings who are all deserving of respect as human beings. However, when you engage in those actions and that kind of cult mentality, I cannot find anything redeeming where you are concerned. I can't. The other problem is tankies and leftists use the site as a doxing tool for individuals, like Nazi Nick. If you know what I'm referring to, I'm getting at... It's Nick Fuentes. It's just Nick Fuentes. Said ban them from Kiwifarms, reduce the toxic behavior, or just get rid of Kiwifarms. Don't just ban them from Kiwifarms. They'll get into Kiwifarms again. Get rid of the thing that is allowing them to do all of that. The site itself shouldn't fucking exist. That's the conversation that's happened. Kiwifarms itself has been taken down, but please note that Kiwifarms being taken down isn't necessarily the end of everything where Kiwifarms is concerned. Because Kiwifarms as a website is just a congregation point. It is a place where these people get together to do their shit. But there has to be a group of people who want to do that type of disparaging, nasty shit in the first place. Getting rid of the website helps. You scatter all those users into the wind, and then they have to try to recongregate somehow. And keeping a website up whose only purpose is to harass people to the point where they will end up committing suicide, no, nobody should do that. I'm sorry. And there are going to be some people who have disagreements with that statement we're going to be talking about a little later. But let's continue with the actual topic at hand. The latest target for Kiwifarms was Clara Sorrenti. Most of you probably know her as Keffels. Keffels ended up having to flee Canada because of the severity of the doxing that Kiwifarms engaged in. Kiwifarms archives political data of their enemies, which usually happens to be trans people. Imagine that. They SWAT their enemies, identify their friends and bosses, and then bombard them with accusations of pedophilia in order to get them fired or otherwise ruin their lives. Turn them into persona non grata for everyone else. There's a thing we call that. It's a type of stochastic terrorism. Get all that information available on the website for anybody to use and just say, boy, wouldn't it be great if this one person we don't like had something terrible happen to them? Gee willikers, sure would be a benefit to all of us. That's how stochastic terrorism works. You put everything up there for the purpose of making sure that somebody will randomly utilize it to harm them. And because it is random, it is harder to track, it is harder to tell who is at fault, it is harder for the blame to be pointed anywhere, and therefore accountability is harder to establish. Keffels herself suffered pretty much every single tactic that Kiwifarms had to offer to throw at them. Kiwifarms' goal is a world where anybody who is LGBTQ can't be as out and open as they would like to on social media. They'd rather them live in fear. They'd rather them live in fear that the world is going to destroy them. To most Kiwifarms users, if you're LGBTQ, you are some form of freak. You are some form of awful character. A world where you can comfortably live happily is a world where a Kiwifarms user is upset, is angry. Now, there's certainly an entire conversation to be had about how absolutely worthless a mentality like that is. I don't care if someone like Ben Shapiro or Matt Walsh is happy. I don't care if someone like Call for an Uprising is happy. I'm not going to try to ruin those people's lives. It's only when they start trying to hurt other people that I tend to do content on them. And for those individuals, that tends to be all the time. Last month, Keffels opened her door to find police officers with guns pointed straight at her. A Kiwifarms user had sent a threat of a mass shooting at her local city in her name, saying that she had killed her mother and was about to assault local political offices. And that's what led to the swatting attempt. Keffels herself decided to push back, though. She tried to go to a hotel and take a picture of her cat to say that, hey, I'm here, I'm safe, my pet is with me. And then, of course, she got doxxed again. Because Kiwifarms, all the users there managed to cross-reference the specific type of branded bed sheets that were used in the picture with her cat to narrow down which hotels she could possibly have been at. By this point, the Uber account for Keffels had also been hacked by Kiwifarms. Now they're able to basically just track any movement that happens using that particular site. And then her family started receiving automatic calls. Let's go ahead and take a listen to one of those right now.
3. To access your personal options, press 4. Saved message 1:31 p.m.
Hi there. Is this dude Megan calling in here to let you know that you've been doxxed? How do you think this happened? Well, you see, your personal information got posted all over the internet, and I'm just letting you know that someone special has it out for you. Don't worry, nothing bad is gonna happen. Just a friendly reminder. Have a nice day.
So, I know that that is very, very vague, but I want you to consider how absolutely fucking terrifying something like that is when you're already dealing with the results of being doxxed. When that information is out there for people to utilize and harass you with. As a result, Keffels ended up fleeing the country. She went to Northern Ireland to evade the swatting, but within days, Kiwifarms and 4chan users managed to find out where she was staying. And then, of course, for those who haven't seen this image already, this image was posted. Loyalists against a slur for trans people. Keffels' dead name, out of our community. Kiwifarms, all another slur for trans people. Kiwifarms force for Sneed. Heil Josh the Corn Lord. Josh being Joshua Moon, also known as Null. Ethan Ralph told me to do this. For those who don't know, Ethan Ralph is one of the guys who hosts the Kill Stream. Which is the place where, if you're familiar with Vosh, the tactical N-word drama came from. But none of that's super important to this, aside from the fact that Ethan Ralph is another scumbag. As a result of this, Keffels' life basically got completely bumfucked. The original plan was to run a campaign against the local law enforcement that had swatted her and used her dead name and tried to harm her. That plan seemed to have had to go out the window because of everything else that has happened. Now, she did run a fundraiser for that initial plan, and I actually promoted that fundraiser on my channel as well. Now, I'm going to be honest, whether or not that fundraiser ends up getting used for the legal case against the local police department that swatted her, I don't know if I care. I don't think I do. Because had it been that incident and then that was it, that was the greatest extent of everything that had happened, I would have gone and said, yeah, no, you need to go ahead and use that money for the purpose it was intended and nothing else. But that's not what happened. Because more and more shit kept on happening. Getting swatted, getting doxxed even in other countries where she went to. There was an incident where bomb threats were placed at multiple, cafes that she might have gone to with someone because she mentioned getting a particular type of food with a friend on Twitter once. When shit like that is happening, I can completely understand if that money now needs another goal. Like, it now needs to be repurposed into something else. Said every poutine shop in Ireland? Yep. Kiwifarms also wanted follow-up people. So the problem with that is the government is run by 8-year-olds with... yeah, that's other shit. So, the issue we run into now is when people on Kiwifarms are seeing a public figure with the notoriety that Keffels has, and they see that their tactics are working, they're likely to use them again and do even more harm afterwards. And here's the other issue. This isn't limited to Kiwifarms. Kiwifarms does this once, and then their tactics get adopted by other people going forward. The Boston's Children's Hospital was locked down due to a bomb threat because of this. If memory serves, I don't even remember what the bomb threat was for at that point. Wasn't it that, like, they did, like, gender-affirming stuff there, and therefore they needed to have a bomb threat happen? The Kiwifarms playbook is what we have to deal with now. The culture war, as it's called, that's a thing that we've been dealing with on the internet for the past God knows how long. Think of the anti-SJW culture shit that happened for the longest time. The conversations about Disney being too woke, the conversations about trans kids in sports, that's the beginning. Things are going to get worse if more platforms start adopting the stochastic terror techniques that Kiwifarms has shown are effective. Frederick Brennan, who previously worked with the founder of Kiwifarms at another extremist site, 8chan, said that the kind of thing that Kiwifarms the kind of thing that Kiwifarms does could easily become something that creates an FBI agent database. It wouldn't be hard. Frederick Brennan, the dude who, helped with Kiwifarms, helped run 8chan, said that he believes that the harassment techniques being used to target trans people now could easily be channeled towards larger goals and government targets, including political targets of the far right, like the FBI. In fact, there was even another person who was caught in all this as well. Marjorie Taylor Greene got caught in the crossfire. She was swatted 2 nights in a row. The caller used a similar automated voice message citing Kiwifarms. Now, it should be noted that eventually, Cloudflare did drop Kiwifarms. They were the hosting provider for Kiwifarms. They dropped them from accessing their services, which would make Kiwifarms, it wouldn't be able to stay online as easily. But then Kiwifarms got brought back up on a Russian server, on a .ru domain. Of course, then they lost their ability to use a CAPTCHA system and all because I believe it was reCAPTCHA, whoever was providing their CAPTCHA system dropped them as well. Eventually, Kiwifarms got dropped from the Russian platform on top of that. Kiwifarms has been dropped from functionally everything, and insofar as Kiwifarms is even mildly more operational, it's only operating in such a limited capacity that it's a shell of what it was before. And here's the thing. That's a good thing. Someone might say, well, I can still get to Kiwifarms using a Tor browser. Yeah, but not being able to get to Kiwifarms from a strict Google search is going to prevent normies from getting to it. And preventing normies from getting to Kiwifarms prevents Kiwifarms from growing. So the main reason I tend to think she may have been involved in orchestrating her own swatting is because Green isn't acting normally for her about it. I don't know. So even the Russians dumped it? Yep. But there are some people who are actually upset about this, who wish that Kiwifarms would stay online. And of course, we can take a guess at who one of them is. Let's go ahead and take a listen to Jeremy's video about how Kiwifarms being taken down is a big L for free speech, and oh gosh darn it, it's just such a bad thing. I hate to tell you, Jeremy, the Kiwi farmers aren't going to fuck you. You don't have to simp like this.
What's going on, everyone? Jeremy and Doc here on this wonderful Labor Day, lamenting what I kind of thought was going to happen. We talked about this last week. It was a very big victory for online freedom of speech. Usually when you're a...
Axel Ignite, thank you for the follow. Oh, by the way, it should also be noted, before Cloudflare dropped Kiwifarms, Cloudflare originally stated they were going to be keeping Kiwifarms because they thought that keeping Kiwifarms online was what was best for minority and marginalized communities. You know, those communities that were targeted by Kiwifarms. As if it's better to keep them harassed and under harassment more often. But let's continue.
A free speech advocate. You are pressed. You are tried. Your support of free speech is tried by the worst kind of speech. Not the 99.9999999% of speech that most people ever encounter online, but usually the worst stuff. And gaslighting pro-censorship weirdos will come around and say, well, here's something horrendous. Do you support that? It's very easy to not. It's this idea that if you are pro-free speech, that you must support all speech. You must agree with all speech. It is a way that gaslighting censorship goons will get people to waver and, like, question their own support of free speech.
So let's go ahead and talk about what free speech is. Okay? Lunumber, thank you for redeeming your points for an Arara. You fucking degen. Let's go and talk about free speech for a minute. Free speech, the concept of it, not the way it exists in America, but the concept of it is just the idea that you can say whatever you want without the government harming you. That's what it is. You can say what you want to without the government coming down on you. Guess what? Cloudflare dropping Kiwifarms is them being able to say whatever they want without the government coming down on them. That was a private organization coming down on them. Free speech didn't get harmed. If somebody's a free speech absolutist, then, I mean, I find that to be an untenable position. Everybody has a limit to where they believe free speech should end. Some people believe free speech should end at the incitement of violence, which is ostensibly what the United States is supposed to have, but it's specifically targeted incitement of violence, and it's really hard to prove in a court 9 times out of 10. Some people would say that free speech should not extend insofar as something that could incite stochastic terrorism, which is a lot more myopic and harder to argue. But I digress. The fact of the matter is, nobody is a free speech absolutist. Nobody. Said blah blah, paradox of tolerance, blah. Yep, this is where the other issue we run into. When you have to support everybody's speech, you run into the problem. Supporting certain things that are said by certain individuals marginalizes others and then negates their speech or severely diminishes their speech at all. If we're to believe in the value of everybody's speech, then we need to believe in ways to amplify the things they say and not diminish them. So, for instance, if there are Jewish people who want to say something, and then there's a group of Nazis who are saying that y'all are responsible for all the terrible things in the world, we should have you killed, now you have a problem. The Jewish people here are not going to be able to speak soon if everybody starts looking at the Nazis and going, you know, they have a point. So what do? Well, the really easy and simple thing there is to say, well, don't let the Nazis speak anymore on this. We have found a type of speech that is a bar we should not allow for. Don't allow for anti-Semitism. Boom. Should be simple and easy. You run into the issue afterwards of how do you define anti-Semitism, but again, the idea is there that you should not allow that kind of speech. And anybody that says that, no, we should allow that kind of speech, no, bullshit. No, we shouldn't. No. We should not tolerate that kind of thing in a civilized society. And I don't care what anybody says. But let's continue.
There are all sorts of things that are said by all sorts of people that are awful that I don't support, but I support their right to say it. And what they do is they try to put you up with them. They say, oh, Andrew Tate said this terrible thing, and the quartering supports Andrew Tate. No. I support freedom of speech. Oh, the quartering supports the farms, or they say horrible things about protected groups. No, I just support their ability to say it. And
which ends up being the same thing. Here's the thing. You've kicked your can. That's what you've done. When you kick the can a little further down, you don't change much. So, on the one hand, supporting Kiwifarms, if you just say, hey, I agree that people on Kiwifarms should be allowed to say the things they say. Cool. There's a difference between them saying it in the privacy of their own home and saying it in a giant group where they're able to conglomerate and consolidate all that information for something targeted. Here's the thing. You could be okay with somebody being transphobic in the privacy of their own home, racist in the privacy of their own home, where it doesn't affect anybody around them. But it's the minute that you start affecting people around you where you start to have issue. That's where I start to have issue. I don't give a flying shit if somebody says something terrible about me in the privacy of their own home. Start saying it publicly and getting people to target me, then, you know, maybe we have a bit more of an issue. Kiwifarms is not just a privacy of own home scenario. It is a place specifically for the targeting of individuals. As a result, supporting Kiwifarms as an entity and letting them say whatever they want on Kiwifarms is in fact supporting Kiwifarms. It's not just you supporting free speech. Again, that free speech can exist just in the privacy of their own homes. Support of the platform is support of the actions in this scenario, because the platform is designed for those actions. Its goal is to incite those actions. But let's continue what Jeremy has to say.
And we had what felt like a huge win last week, and predictably, it completely crumbled this week. I'm going to get into it after a super quick word from this video sponsor. Huge shout out to this video sponsor, Private...
Nope, we do not listen to your sponsor. I am sorry, Jeremy. I'm not really sorry, Jeremy. Only my sponsors here on my channel. If you haven't gone over to ddlgplayground.com, please consider doing that. Use coupon code Suris to get 10% off anything there. If you don't like my content, that's fine. There's no reason to pay more for dildos. Just go get a thing there, shove it up your ass, get 10% off using my coupon code. Perfectly fine. But also, if you're finding yourself really, really world-weary, you need some energy, you need a boost, and you want 20% off something, maybe you should head over to drinkwraith.com and get yourself some energy drinks. If you do, and they've got a ton of good flavors for you, I can get you 20% off anything on their store if you use coupon code NECOSURIS. So there you go. You can go ahead and use those sponsors instead of Jeremy's. Because fuck you.
Hey, it's 2022. If you haven't got a VPN yet, take advantage of the massive discount they give my viewers for free. Now, on September 3rd, after issuing a bold statement the week before, a couple days before, Cloudflare, this site that had kind of protected this forum from DDoS attacks and other... This is one thing that everyone seems to... Oh, it's totally fine to DDoS this website because there's words on it that we don't like. There's all sorts of stuff like that going on, but...
Yeah, if it's okay for Kiwifarms to use words you don't like them DDoSing and doxing people, then yeah, DDoSing them is fine. I'm sorry.
Expecting the left to be, consistent is ridiculous. But, Matthew Prince came out, or somebody at Kiwifarms came out and said, or at Cloudflare, but no, we're not going to take the site down. Well, 2 days later, yep, they took the site down. We have blocked the farms. Visitors to any of these sites that use any of Cloudflare services will see Cloudflare's block page and a link to this post. And that's true. If you try to go to the website, you get this. Cybersecurity by Cloudflare. What happened? Due to an imminent and emergency threat to human life. We didn't see any of that, by the way. And from what I've seen...
You didn't see any of that? Jeremy, it is a website that literally had a kill counter on it. And was actively harassing Keffels. And was actively getting more and more involved in her private life. Jeremy, the emergency was there in front of your face, but you refused to see it. Probably for a combination of reasons. I'd say the biggest one is you're very obstinate. I'd say the other reason is probably the fact that your base of viewers, they want you to be this voice box. This is what pays your bills. I'm not going to stick on that point for terribly long, because anybody can make an argument that, well, they pay your bills, they want you to have they want you to say these things, blah, 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 because people can say that about anything. People can say that about people who view my channel. That people on my Patreon, which you should go to, by the way, people who subscribe on my Patreon want me to say certain things, and therefore those are the things I'll say on stream. I will say this right now, though. My opinions are mine. If you don't like what I say and you want to, drop me off Patreon, go ahead and do it. It's your money, not mine. But, regardless, my suspicion is that because the Quartering has built himself up as a persona, a person who is very, very, very free speech absolutist and also caters to a lot of people on the right wing, this is what he has to say at this point. It doesn't make it better. That's just my suspicion.
The admin of that forum has denied these claims and has asked for evidence, and I don't believe any's been provided, at least at this point, but who's surprised, right? So
the admin of the forum being Null, Joshua Moon, the evidence being literally all of the threads on Kiwifarms that are about Keffels, which is a staggering amount of shit.
You try to go to the website, you get this, and then why they blocked it. So drive pictures to their own, or drive traffic to their own blog, I guess. Their site may move sites to other providers, and in doing so, come back online, but we've taken steps to block their content from being accessed through our infrastructure. This is an extraordinary decision for us to make, and given Cloudflare's role as the internet infrastructure provider, a dangerous one that we are not comfortable with. However, the rhetoric on the farm site and specific targeted threats have escalated over the last 48 hours. Again, no evidence provided. You would think that,
again, anybody who was browsing Kiwifarms around that time has seen evidence that the users on that website were engaging in targeted harassment that was ramping up. Literally, doxing someone via bed sheets, bomb threats happening at fucking poutine, not boutiques, what am I thinking of? Restaurants. Jeremy, the evidence is there. You're refusing to look at it. You're refusing to see it.
I'm not saying I know that it didn't exist. What I'm saying is, if you're going to put
And there's the plausible deniability.
this post out, you should probably back it up, don't you think? I mean, if you're going to say these are escalating threats, where? What can you show me some so I know like where Cloudflare's line actually is? No, what this really was the consistent media pressure and this whole like, oh well, what Jeremy, do you support all the terrible things I do to the trans people? Child, please. They had a whole long thread on me there, which listed my personal home address and said terrible things about me too. Okay, it was probably the site that the people used to swat me, and I'm still standing here defending it. All right, I'm not defending putting people's addresses out. I'm not defending doxing people. I'm not defending some of the heinous things they said, but I am defending their right to say it and their right to exist. But I mean,
Jeremy, this is the most cucked position you can have. As opposed to accepting, like a man, the ability to retaliate when somebody does something terrible to you, you are instead sitting here in the most cucked position. You are instead taking the position of somebody who, from my perspective, is trying desperately to not have Kiwifarms do something terrible to them again. The farmers don't care. These are people who barely have souls. And I'm perfectly comfortable saying that. Anybody who uses a website like that for recreational purposes, nah. So it's almost Stockholm Syndrome without the Stockholm Syndrome? Almost. But this is the position he has to have for his base.
that's like an impossible thing for the new liberal. You know, when I called myself a liberal when I was 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, you were like against big tech, you were against big pharma, and you were against censorship. So the idea of suddenly being like pro-censorship is really weird. And I think I'm coming from a unique position here on talking on it because, you know, I'm not just saying, oh, it's not something that doesn't affect me. It does. The idea that, escalating threats. I mean, where? Cloudflare provides security.
On Kiwifarms. The where is on Kiwifarms. Like, that's what it is. The where is Kiwifarms itself. But okay.
Security services to them, protecting them from DDoS and other cyber attacks. We have never been their hosting provider. As outlined, Wednesday, we do not believe in terminating security services is appropriate, even to revolting content. And we're in a law-respecting world. The answer to even illegal content is to not use other means like DDoS attacks to silence it. Essentially, calling them out a little bit, saying like, hey, you clowns are the ones DDoSing them. This is not okay either. But, never wrong tactics, only wrong targets, I think is essentially what the modern kind of pro-censorship era is all about. They don't care about.
No, I do not think that individual people should be doxxed. Pretty much ever. DDoSing, I believe, is a perfectly reasonable thing to do if DDoSing is happening to you. If a denial of service is happening to your platform, then by all means, retaliate. This is the escalation theory thing. I don't think you should aim a gun at somebody, but if somebody aims a gun at you, I believe you should be allowed to defend yourself. Even if that involves using another gun. Like, I'm sorry. Like tactics for like tactics. I don't see anything wrong with that.
Doxing when it's the libs of TikTok. They don't care about, DDoSing when it's the farms. But if it was like a website for trans folks, it would be the worst thing ever on the planet, ever. Like, they can't see their own hypocrisy. As the pressure campaign has escalated, so did the rhetoric on the farm site. Feeling attacked, users of the site became even more aggressive. Over the last 2 weeks, we have proactively reached out to law enforcement in multiple jurisdictions, highlighting what we believe to be potential criminal acts and terrible threats. Again, we don't know. And we know that it's entirely possible that people who are members of kind of the deplatform campaign very well could have went on there and posted those things themselves. I'm not saying that they did or that I know.
What a fuck. This is the fucking January 6th was done by Antifa thing. That's literally all that is. That is exactly what that is. That is probably just, people who liked Keffels putting up stuff on there about her. And then trying to target and harass her. That's what it is. That is entirely what bullshit.
Oh, they did or whatever, but there's got to be some sort of investigation. I saw one of the last threads I saw was the admin of the website outlaying this brand new user who had come on and done some terrible posts in which they were banned almost immediately. So it's interesting. Finally, we are aware and concerned that our action may only fan the flames of this emergency. The website itself will likely find other infrastructure that allows them to come back online. as did these other websites after we terminated them. And even if they don't, the individuals that use the site to increasingly be mean, will feel even more isolated and attacked and may lash out further. There's real risk by taking this action today. We may have further heightened the emergency. But you still did it. You know, you still did it.
Yeah, because you have to roll that dice. Sometimes when all options suck, you have to roll the dice and see if you can get one that isn't quite as bad. That's how that works. Sometimes every option you have is a bad one, and you just have to accept that you're taking the lesser of two evils. So which is worse? Doing the right thing and taking the website that is destroying people's lives offline? Knowing that there's a risk that things might get worse later, but that's just a risk. A very plausible risk, but still a risk. Versus, instead, taking your time, looking over everything that Kiwifarms did, and then just saying, eh. And that be it. And just letting that be it. You see, functionally, the equivalent of somebody aiming 1,000 guns at someone else, and you're just like, I don't need to do anything about that. That's fine. Why would we need to stop the bad things from happening? There's no need. There is no need to do that at all. So when people's lives are in danger, and if it's a choice we can make of the world a little safer, then losers, then yeah, I would take my chances and roll the dice. That's the thing. Like, so, what's the best way to put this? It's like a medical procedure, right? Some medical procedures you take knowing that they could kill you. A lot of spinal procedures are this way. A lot of procedures on the brain and heart are this way. If there is a chance that it can kill you, but there's a chance the person's going to die from whatever spinal ailment, whatever brain or heart ailment they already have, then you're rolling the dice either way. We do this all the time. It's the issue with trying to not engage in binary thinking. When we engage strictly in binary thinking, we only allow ourselves the options of no harm or harm. If something has harm in any capacity, then we just have to accept that that's there, and that sucks, and we didn't change anything, and nothing is fixed, and that's it. We can't do that, though. We don't live in a world that's that simple. We can't just have a world where there is either harm or not harm. There are degrees of harm. There are degrees of pain. There are degrees of bad shit in the world. And as much as it sucks, we do have to accept that sometimes we cannot 110% guarantee that no harm will happen via any action that we take. Sometimes all we can do is our best. And sometimes our best is removing a doxing site from the internet. Will they congregate on a different, greater, grander Kiwifarms 2 Electric Boogaloo? Who knows? But the right thing to do in the now was that. The right thing to do in the now was getting rid of the weapon, getting rid of the website. But let's finish this video up.
Now they move to Russian domain. Essentially, from what I'm understanding, is a site is having trouble staying online because of people illegally DDoSing it. That's what how I understand when I read this. And you have, Cloudflare blocks Kiwifarms, you immediate threat. Show me one. If you have all this evidence, why can't you post literally any of it? It's so sus.
So the same reason that you can't post all the evidence during an ongoing police investigation. Sometimes that's just not a thing you can do. Sometimes posting that evidence will actually increase the harm that is done because you will embolden people as well. It depends. I do not know the entire situation. from Cloudflare's perspective, because I'm not a fly on the wall there, and neither are you.
The Voldemort of anti-trans. It's not an anti-trans website. It's a web.
Yes, it is. It is a website that happens to do that a lot. Like, okay, this is like me going, hey, buddy, you might be a transphobe. And they go, I'm not a transphobe. I am a white, cis person, educated at Berkeley, and I like playing video games. My favorite game is Undertale. And I'm like, okay, cool. But wrapped in all of that is one of the things you do, transphobia. Well, I don't think that trans women should be going into women's bathrooms because despite the fact that they don't have urinals in there, somebody else might see a penis. Okay, buddy, so you're just a transphobe then. I understand that there's other aspects of what you do and who you are and how you operate, but the descriptor, transphobe, is still apt. There are other people who Kiwifarms targets. Kiwifarms targeted me and I'm not trans. Kiwifarms targeted Jeremy and he's not trans. But do they engage in a lot of anti-trans stuff? Yeah? Would that mean that an accurate descriptor for them is an anti-trans website? Also, yeah. It does not have to be a perfect, all-encompassing, this is the only thing they do type of deal. But I've got a story for you guys after this that's a little more personal. We don't need to see the end of Jeremy's video. We know he's just going to lick the Kiwifarm boot for as long as he can possibly milk it. Let's get two things out of the way real quick. There's another person that Kiwifarms doxed in 2013. Chloe Segal. They harassed her and everyone she was connected with for about 5 years. Near the end of her life, she expressed suicidal ideation on Facebook. Kiwifarms reported her account for doing so, and then got her suspended. Weeks later, she took her own life. The way in which she did so, less important for the conversation. But Joshua Moon, you know, noted founder and owner of a not anti-trans website, had this to say in regards to that situation.
So I figured I would play something tasteful as an outro.
I am the god of hellfire, and I bring you fire. I send you to burn. Fire. I send you to learn.
It may actually be important for me to explain why he is doing this, then. The particular way in which Chloe committed suicide was by burning herself to death. That's the reason he wanted to do his based outro after her death, after showing her page on his own stream. That is the type of person that Joshua is. That is the type of person that Null is. He's the type of person who celebrates when he has had somebody killed. Paladin Loss, thank you very much for resubscribing. Said you really didn't need to know that? I didn't want to say it, and then I realized that the video itself actually had... It was pertinent for that. Otherwise, there was no way to know why he did it. You can't imagine being so hateful to celebrate something tragic like that. It's how you're raised. Apparently, Joshua Moon's mother also had an account on Kiwifarms and was definitely supportive of the shit he did. There was a story that I wasn't really able to verify. If somebody has verification of it, that would be helpful, but know that this is an allegedly otherwise. But one of Joshua's victims actually tried to go to his house, apparently. And the dude, in all of his cowardice, hid behind his mom for her to have the conversation with his victim. That is not one of those things that I've been able to 100% verify. So don't speak it as if it's gospel. MF really said, protect me, mommy. Now, I do have a personal story to share where Kiwifarms is concerned. And I think it's going to be what we end up closing this out with. Because this is already sitting as an hour-long video to begin with, which is going to be hard for some people to get through. But I sincerely hope that some of you have stuck it all the way through. If you have, let me know in the comment section below. But Keffels posted that Cloudflare had dropped Kiwifarms, that her campaign will put out a statement soon about it. The statement's already been had. The statement itself isn't super important. What's important here is something I found under it and engaged with. A user called iHatGoogle, Lost Tofu, thank you for the follow, said, I've struggled with my gender for over 10 years at this point, and I lurk that website to keep myself from making any poor decisions or throwing my life away. And now y'all've banned it. Thanks a lot. Back to the booze, I guess. There are apparently people who are in the closet about being trans or otherwise LGBTQ who would go on to Kiwifarms specifically for the purpose of deadening their want to go and do something. This type of self-hatred is genuinely awful. Sounds like a troll? Let's go through my conversation with them. Because I thought they were a troll at first, too, and so I responded in kind. But as the conversation went through, I'm not as convinced that they're a troll anymore. I said, just watch YouTube or something. Get healthy. To which they said, YouTube usually bans anti-trans stuff or whatever, though. So I said, well, that's a good thing. Why do you need anti-trans stuff? Kind of stupid, not gonna lie. Now, there was another user that responded to this saying, why would someone need the other side of a conversation? No. This is the same thing as people saying we need anti-vaxxers on the platform. No, the fuck we don't. But they said, because as someone who isn't comfortable with their gender, watching that type of stuff helps me keep myself from transitioning or doing self-destructive shit like that. I responded by asking, how is transitioning destructive? And then they said, it would probably end my budding professional career, which as a recent college grad would ruin me for life. I also like my family and friends, and I'm not interested in losing them. I also like not being treated like a freak in public. Now, I need to pause real quick and point out that this is actually a very real concern. If you're LGBTQ, trans, or even an atheist, you've probably had some amount of time where you've stayed in the closet for your own personal safety. Where you've done things to protect yourself and not share your identity with people who you otherwise love and you believe love you. But you do also believe that it's way too dangerous to share that information out with other people. This is the point where I stopped thinking this was a troll. This was the point where I started feeling a lot more sympathetic. I said, you do realize that moving the world towards normalization of trans people would do infinitely more to help people like you than enabling transphobia, right? Be yourself. If someone drops you for that, they didn't deserve you to begin with, which is a statement that I'm willing to stand by. I think enabling more transphobia to protect yourself, while understandable, is cowardly. It's seeking comfort more than anything. It's seeking that above and beyond anything else. I had an entire fight and falling out with my family when I became an atheist. Well, when I publicly became an atheist. Those bridges are repaired now, but they were broken once. I wasn't also in a position where my personal safety would be affected, mind you. My position on coming out of the closet is very much one of those things where if you are not in a safe environment, don't do it. But if you are safe, you create a better world for other trans people, other other people in general who are in a minority or marginalized or some way. You do a lot more good if you're an example of the good that can come from those communities, as opposed to enabling the ones that hate them. What I'm saying is, come out as gamer. But let's continue. How's it going, Mizotaku? They then said, yeah, but let's be real here. That will never happen in my lifetime. I'm already 22. I've only got like 40 years. I like having a job, not being poor, not being hated, and having a family to see at Thanksgiving. I tried to respond saying that's understandable, but listen to yourself. You would rather have the respect of people who hate who you really are than being yourself. That's an unbelievably sad existence. It's not healthy. And here's the important part. It's not sustainable. Think about it. Every day that you are not your authentic self and you are having to chameleonize yourself around other people is another day that you have wasted. It is another day that you haven't been able to be you. If who you are and what you're doing is not going to harm other people, then being you shouldn't be a problem. Every day that you're not you in front of other people is a day you can get closer to being a statistic. And that is an unfortunate reality. Having to engage in self-hatred just to keep yourself going is a fast spiral down to a mental break. They said we don't get to choose who we're born to. And other than some of their beliefs, they're great people. Why ruin a relationship over my brain being broken, you know? And that's another part of this. I can understand this. I can understand this position. Why ruin the good relationships with people around you over yourself? I just don't agree with it. I understand it. It is a position of wanting safety. It is a position of wanting love. But it's not a position you can keep forever. Because the person your family is loving isn't you. It's a facsimile of yourself that you've built yourself up to be for their benefit. And eventually, as you get closer to 60, 70, 80, if you've lived your entire life for other people's benefit and not for your own, why were you living your life in the first place? I tried to point out to them that your brain isn't broken. Maybe try treading the water on how your family feels about these issues in general before broaching the subject. I have a friend who had to do that. It took a few years for his family to get the idea, but they eventually accepted his transition. They then said, my cousin came out as trans. The family now acts like she doesn't exist. All family photos of her before she came out have been taken down and hidden. And needless to say, there's probably not going to be any other family photos, considering they refused to speak with her. So this person's already seen the end result. They know what'll happen to them. And this is where I have to go back to my original point. If you yourself are not in imminent danger, we do get to pick our families to an extent. You don't have to accept being around one that hates you for you. I had what I thought was a wonderful friendship that had to be ended because the person I was not something that he could accept. This was a person who called me family. A house I went to every week. A person I broke bread with more times than I can count. But let's continue. And I said, are you personally okay supporting that? And he said, no. But I'm not going to go against the grain here. I love my siblings. I love my parents, who've been nothing but amazing to me my whole life. And even if I was okay with losing everything, I still want a career as well. It's my choice not to transition. I said, you're right. It is your choice. You don't have to do anything here. If you think you're trans and you don't want to transition, that's fine. And then said, that said, if it's a community you need, and it feels like that's been stripped away from you in losing Kiwifarms, you are always welcome in mine. And I do hold to that. If there's anybody who spent their time perusing websites like Kiwifarms and 8chan because you do have that self-hatred, and you want somewhere healthier to be that will accept you as a person, that's what my community is here for. We've got a ton of brilliant and loving people here who are not going to be upset at you for being trans and not wanting to transition. Most people here are going to be able to understand a problem like that. I guarantee you there's a lot of people who are watching right now who are probably living that lifestyle as we speak. Which brings us to the next part of the conversation where they said, but anytime I interact with the trans community, it's you need to transition or you'll hate yourself forever. Or will you think you've won when you're laying in your deathbed and still a man? If there were more trans communities accepting of my situation, I'd be in them. As far as I'm concerned, you can have this position and still being accepting of somebody who wants to be in the closet. Sounds like some true scum people who say that. Yeah. People have a variety of reasons for not wanting to transition if they are trans. It's valid to not want to do things to your own body yet, or at all. There are people who are trans and are perfectly comfortable just socially transitioning. There are people who are trans who just end up being androgynous and NBs. That's a thing that happens. If there's a community that will only accept you as trans if you transition, that's not fair to you. And it also gatekeeps something that is completely inside your own head and heart away from you. And it creates a world where, guess what? You left one group of people who wanted you to be a certain way and were willing to harm you if you weren't, for another group of people doing the exact same thing. The next part of the conversation is me saying, I mean, most stable trans communities should be supportive of situations where you have to be in the closet. I said, I haven't found a single one. They just urge you to come out of the closet, like that'll help anything. This is where I ended with mine. I said, it's a gamble. But again, that offer is open. I stream Mondays through Thursdays, and I have a pretty active Discord. And there's been no responses from that point on. There's been nothing. I don't know if this individual was a troll. I don't know if they're looking at my channel at any point, waiting for me to make a video on them finally. And it's why I put it in the back end of this one. So if somebody was interested more in the Kiwifarms drama, then that's a thing that they can do. But if they're interested enough in me and my content and my community, they'll make it to this much more personal part of the video. And this is probably the longest individual video I've made on any one subject. If you need a community to support you, that's what my community is here for. I would rather a community of people who are willing to be helpful than people who need you to act and perform and conform a certain way. So long as you aren't harming anybody. Lord Misfit, thank you for redeeming your points for an owl. I feel for this individual. But it also speaks to the type of people who are on Kiwifarms. There's a lot of people on that website who are there not just for the transphobia so that they can harm other trans people. They're there for the transphobia because they feel they need it. Because they've been convinced by websites like Kiwifarms that that is the world that we are going to stay in for the longest time. And so they need that reinforcement that something bad will happen if they don't. It's like a Christian who's battling with their faith and is having to constantly talk to their preacher about hell and hellfire to remind them of why they just can't stop being Christian, even if they don't believe anymore. That said, as much as that entire situation with Kiwifarms sucks, but it is good the website is taken down, I think ending on that much more personal note is more apt than just celebrating the website's gone. I want to celebrate the website's gone, and I'm going to do so. But we also have to remember the real people that were not only hurt by Kiwifarms because they were targeted, but are actively harmed by Kiwifarms because that's the community and culture that they have found themselves embroiled into. Enzo says, even if the person is trans and got out of Kiwifarms, why should you trust them? Why shouldn't I? If somebody is reaching out that hand for help, I don't care if there's a chance I'll get burned. Not my problem. Much like what I had to do with Jeremy, pointing out sometimes you roll that dice on removing that website to lower the amount of harm that is happening to people. Sometimes you have to roll that dice on somebody who may cause you harm, may cause harm within your community. They also might grow into a better person. I have no way of knowing that. I have no way of knowing the rest of that person's story or their intentions. But I do know they're a person that claimed they needed help. I have let people into my own home who have ended up harming me greatly and scarred me and caused me to go to therapy for a long fucking time. And I'm still willing to leave that hand open to people who might not be able to be trusted. Maybe that's naivete. Maybe that's me hoping that everybody is secretly a good person in their heart and will one day make the world a better place. They just are in the wrong place. I don't know. But I know I refuse to deaden that part of myself. I refuse to let myself be dictated by that trauma response. With that said, though, let me know what you guys think in the comments section below when this video finally goes up to YouTube. Hopefully you enjoyed, hopefully it was informative, and hopefully it wasn't too triggering for everybody who was watching. As always, everybody, insert end of video tagline here.